Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. My name is the editor, Martin Creamer. Joins me today to unpack the latest in the mining industry. Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Sashni.
Can you tell us about the American-Australian business partnership that was recently announced with a focus on a global green hydrogen ecosystem?
Yes, I just wish South African companies were in there, because you've got a company like Plug, the American company, but then coming in strongly is Fortescue of Australia. Now, one would have thought that with our involvement in the Platinum Group metals, we would have linked up with Plug a long time ago, because it's not as if there has to be an investment. You know, you jointly do things that will probably reach a stage of investment, but just being associated with this growth of the use of green hydrogen is so important for South Africa. Because when you see that green hydrogen and you see the electrolyzers that produce the green hydrogen, if these are PEM electrolyzers, then we jump for joy. Because proton exchange membrane electrolyzers are platinum based. So one would have thought that we would have got closer to this company, because just as Creamer Media, I mean, we've been observing this company for a long time and trying to get information on what's going on. So we were very happy to be part of the symposium this week, where you saw a lot of interaction between the Americans and Australians in the form of these two companies, but going into all over the world, where, you know, there are 30 plus countries in the world that have now got hydrogen strategies. And just as they were saying, this week, you know, Europe said that 42% of that hydrogen's got to be green hydrogen. You know, so it's so important for us here, because that is likely to involve PEM electrolysis. And then you see the number of fuel cells that these people have put into the organization. You realize that green hydrogen requires a fuel cell to turn it into green electricity for mobility and stationary power. We do have news here as well. You know, you see in Saldanha Bay, there's a lot of activity around green steel. But I think in the background, you know, companies used to link up with international concerns that were around the use of platinum, like Johnson Matthey and South African companies. There was a link. So one would have thought that everywhere they can, South African companies, or even a whole group of the platinum companies, would have linked up with Plug well ahead of Fortescue, because Fortescue is known for iron ore, you know. So I see they're also planning a big hydrogen highway in the US, and we're doing the same here. I would have thought we could have linked up, you know, with this company, because at this point in time they just want collaboration. You know, there's no such thing as trying to edge you out or beat you. They just want to work together, because they know that that produces the best. So hopefully we'll be more collaborative for the sake of our economy here and the region, and using it into Africa, which the opportunity now exists to do.
Now tell us about the attention that Copper 360's mining school is receiving from global players.
Yeah, so here you've got Copper 360 going into the Northern Cape, seeing that what they imagined was the scope of their business is just growing like topsy. And you need to build the skills. Now, one would have thought some of the majors who have been there for decades would have thought of this, you know, that you should start developing skills. But it seems that a company on the alternate exchange of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, not a major, has actually spotted this need and doesn't hesitate to go in and do it, you know, which I think that the doing is the big thing. And you can see that the demand in that area from the people is huge. All right, they started off with 30 students, but they've started. But that was from 200 applications. And already they're getting international inquiries like you can't believe. I can't mention the major company, but I'm told in a whisper that there's a massive major company that I said to him, we really need to partner with you. And that is what a Polish company said this week. We need to partner with you. We know that already the UK partnership has been ongoing. So this could be a very important school of mining for the Northern Cape, which we know has the situation of being very prospective. And every time they drill, they find much more. So I think it's going to be a very important area. And the way they're developing their students, I think, is quite scientific. And they're talking about the scaffolding method of doing this. Well, we know scaffoldings build people up slowly and build them from the bottom. And this is what they're working on, some clever ways of getting this skilling through to these people who actually live near mines but know nothing about mines, but they're now, at the Concordia area, that they, in their classroom, when they come out, having learnt the theory, they then see the theory being put into practice and they're taken through the mines. So it is a really ideal way of imparting skills very, very fast.
Lastly, more focus is being put on mining's integration with the circular economy.
Yeah, this circular economy we associate immediately with recycling. But as they were saying at the Financial Times Mining Summit in London, it's more about product life extension, repair, reuse, then recycling. But it's clear that the mining companies are going to have this new consciousness. They're calling it responsible production now. So when you produce, you start looking at that supply chain and how that is going to come back into the system. Because if they start calculating the critical metals that are needed by 2050, they see a gap. The mining companies are not going to be able to produce at the level needed. So you need to then look at the circular economy, and the mining companies need to do that early. We see that they are starting to, and some of the big ones are really so entrenched in this because they've been doing it for many years. Others are quickly, getting involved because of the situation where the regulations will become tighter and tighter, that if you are putting products into the market, that's great. But you've also got a responsibility to see that you don't just keep producing willy-nilly, that you bring in those products that you've produced and you look in some way, because it's a different business, to then, product life extension, as they say, repair, reuse. And the recycling, I think people have been around that for some time. We know that there have been scrap collectors and people like that. But as they say, you in mining here, it's very different to actually being in the circular economy. And often, if you have been in trading, like some of these companies have been, they're far closer to understanding the circular economy bit, because, they say you can call yourself a scrap dealer, but what you collect there is sometimes not scrap. It's a more risky business. But I think that the consciousness is growing, and mining companies will also become what they say are urban mining companies, but that's a big term because it seems like it's really based on consumption that's responsible. So you'll have mining, responsible consumption, because we're living in this new world that has to fight climate change as well, and the regulations are tightening.
Thanks for speaking with us, Martin.
Thanks, Ashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the local and global mining industries. To subscribe to Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly, please email subscriptions at creamermedia.co.za.